Denise, good afternoon.
Hi, Leah. How are you?
Look, I appreciate you being on the phone, Denise, and giving us your time. And and my preamble, I always, I like to kind of set it up for the listeners before we came to you. And I know the Selwyn Foundation has invested a lot and researched to identify areas where seniors experience the greatest need. And one of the 5 areas that for this conversation I'd like to concentrate on is social isolation and loneliness. So living in social isolation, how do we address the problem of loneliness and the associated health risks?
You're absolutely right, Leah. The work that we've done and what other agencies have done says that in New Zealand, that's 20% of our older people who are experiencing loneliness. And I think you've seen the World Health Organization that says if you're lonely, it's 30 to 60% more likely to have an early death. And what's possibly not as well known is that 64% of people are more likely to get dementia. So it's not a great state to be. I think of my own mother at sort of 91 with family, but she's lonely. Her social connections have dramatically reduced. COVID wasn't great. Her own mobility had declined. She can't drive, so it's very, very difficult. And if you add that to that, things like digital, can't use digital means, have language barriers, it's huge. And what we're seeing is a huge growing cohort of people that are ageing and are lonely. So we're really, we're really focused, as you say, about those most vulnerable. And our own data shows, as we said before, around all those domains of wellbeing. Some of the things you might be interested that people are doing in New Zealand, that we're doing, that others are doing, that might be of interest to listeners, is we've run for about 23 years Selwyn centres, which are places of gathering for older people to come, and they do programs of physical, mental, social activity, which is really, really great for people. We run them with our Anglican network. But there are also some really cool innovations. We ran an innovation challenge last year, and some of the initiatives for vulnerable older people who are lonely were about, tech connectivity, upskilling people in that, AI, using AI as a way to, connect. Yeah, I've got one that's sort of brewing, which is around AI and using Tadeo voice, so that's really cool. So really interesting things going on about enabling, firstly, older people to be able to use tech and have access to tech, but also some cool interventions there. I mean, we also know there's others. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, I'm really fascinated, and I love that you've got these centres where people can connect, and as you said, that it's for friendship, it's for fun, support, gentle exercise, even just a chat. I wonder, do you come across, or has the research shown that, I always love, what I really admire about, say, my grandparents' age, is they have that stoic, they've been through a lot, so to even get them to maybe confess they might be a bit lonely, is that something that you see? Do they kind of just stick it out on their own anyway, or do they get to a stage where they go, no, I really need some companionship?
Oh, they absolutely do. But we're also, talking about a younger cohort now. So, by now, next year, all of the first lot of baby boomers are turning 80. Yeah. So we're actually, it's a bit scary there. Yeah. We're just simply not ready. There's actually, we're living well, and we're living well for longer.
Yes.
So that creates a huge challenge for New Zealand, for all countries. You talked about Japan, you talked about the UK. And what we're seeing in terms of that loneliness and isolation is one of those variables that create more vulnerability as people age. We see some issues for single older women, probably that emerges earlier around loneliness and isolation, and compounding. If you've got mental health issues, that makes it more challenging. There are just data and statistics around that, which sort of suggest about 30% of people who have compounding mental health issues lack social connection. I mean, we're also looking at things around how do you create a sense of purpose belonging and connectedness as people age. Some might call that spirituality, we would. And we're not talking simply about faith, but we're talking about how to actually have conversations, how to think. You know, as people age, as we all age, we start to reflect upon what's gone well, what hasn't, what our sense of purpose was, and how do we enable people to have those conversations with their families, with their friends, and sort of live well, die well, even.
Yeah.
So, you know, those are really important questions for New Zealanders.
I think.
No,
no, sorry. Keep going, Denise.
I was also talking, we've become involved in backboning the decade of healthy ageing. So it's an initiative that came out of the World Health Organization. Other countries around the world, particularly leaders like the UK and Japan, are really about focusing people's attention on this ageing population that's coming. And it's really one of the cross-cutting issues is absolutely social isolation and loneliness, because of its prevalence. I mean, the other ones are combating ageism and about how we all, address the fact that we all age and actually how do we keep everybody engaged and use shared intergenerational learning. How do we actually keep people active participants, whatever that might mean, for longer? So, you know, that's the other cross-cutting issue we're really focused on as well. And
I think it's interesting because in the UK, and I know I use them as an example, they've been calling for widespread change at a national level, and they've called on the government to tackle this and with policy changes. Do you think in New Zealand our government should be, you know, looking into? I mean, you do a fantastic job, but should it be at that government level, maybe a dedicated minister or policies? I mean, is it something we should be looking into?
Well, we already have a Minister for Seniors and a great office for seniors, and we work really closely with them, as you say, to support their work, but also to enable other people doing great stuff in the community. I mean, we've been around, as you say, for 70 years. Our focus is on vulnerable older people and about working to enable improvements for their well-being and lives. And I think those sorts of policy changes, yes, no, but I think how do we activate everybody to, be aware of what's going on? There's some interesting campaigns about, I think it's called Shut the Blinds, or, where people, my mother does it, you shut the blind and you lift the blind up in the morning to say that you're awake, and so your neighbours can see that. And if your blind hasn't been open for a few days, well, that might signal that someone should go and go and knock on the door. Maybe not a few days, but
Yes. I remember that ad. There was that ad where the guy comes home and he goes, "Have you seen Mary?" And they were all like getting ready for dinner, going, "No, I haven't." And then he runs over next door. So I think that's, at a local level, we should be. I like that to look out for your friends or neighbours and even your relatives. I spoke to my father yesterday. And I realised, he's in Kaikoura, he's turning 79 soon, and he lives by himself. And I realised I've been so busy, I hadn't spoken to him for quite some time. And then I got, attack of the guilt because I hadn't. And I thought, my dad's been living by himself for so long. Yeah, and you've just got to make sure that even with relatives that you just keep in touch. Even if you're talking to an older person at the bus stop, just to kind of check out, how their life's going. It's probably everyone getting involved.